Mastermind. The mastermind is the one pulling strings from the shadows. You usually don't see them rushing into action, and honestly, they don't need to. Their power comes from planning, patience, and control over others. Characters like this often build entire systems, crime networks, political influence, or psychological traps, so that by the time the hero notices, it's already too late. Think of someone who wins the game before it even starts. It matters because this type of villain shows that intelligence, when twisted, can be far more dangerous than brute force. The Tyrant. The Tyrant rules through fear, control, and absolute authority. They don't just want power, they want obedience. These villains often sit at the top of a system, whether it's an empire, a government, or even a small community, and reshape it to serve only themselves. You'll notice they rarely see people as individuals, more like pieces on a board. And if you've ever had a strict teacher who thought silence equals respect, you already understand a tiny version of this. Tyrants matter because they reflect real-world histories where power goes unchecked. The fallen hero. The fallen hero is someone who used to be good, and that's what makes them hurt to watch. They didn't start out as villains. Somewhere along the way, something broke. Loss, fear, anger, or even good intentions taken too far. What makes them different is that part of their old self is still there, buried under everything. It creates tension, because you're not just watching a villain, you're watching what could happen to anyone under the wrong pressure. And yeah, it's the kind of story that makes you question your own limits a little. The Psychopath. The Psychopath doesn't follow normal emotional rules. They don't feel guilt the way others do, and they don't need a clear reason to cause harm. That unpredictability is what makes them unsettling. You can't negotiate with them, and you can't appeal to their humanity, because that connection just isn't there. Sometimes they act for amusement, sometimes for chaos, and sometimes for reasons that don't even fully make sense. It matters, because this type of villain removes the comfort of logic. There's no pattern to rely on, and that's what keeps both characters and viewers on edge. The corrupt official. The corrupt official hides behind respectability. On the surface, they might look like a leader, a business person, or someone trustworthy. Underneath, they use their position to manipulate systems for personal gain. What makes them interesting is that they don't break the system, they bend it. Laws, rules, and institutions become tools instead of boundaries. And if you've ever felt like someone in charge wasn't exactly playing fair, you already get the idea. This villain matters because they show how power can quietly rot from the inside. The monster. The monster is often defined by what they are, not just what they do. Sometimes they're physically different, sometimes created, sometimes born into something they didn't choose. What sets them apart is that their existence itself causes fear. But here's the twist. Many monsters aren't purely evil. Some are misunderstood. Some are reacting to how they've been treated. That gray area is what gives this archetype depth. It reminds you that fear and appearance can shape how society labels someone, for better or worse. The rival. The rival stands opposite the hero, but not always as a full villain. They are often equals in skill or status, which makes their conflict personal. Unlike other villains, they don't always want destruction. They want to win. Whether it's pride, jealousy, or different beliefs, their motivation is usually grounded in comparison. You'll see them pushing the hero to grow, even if they don't mean to. And let's be honest, everyone has had that one person who made things unnecessarily competitive. That's the energy here. It matters because rivals sharpen the story without completely darkening it. The trickster. The trickster thrives on deception, humor, and unpredictability. They don't always follow a clear side, and that's what makes them hard to pin down. One moment they're helping, the next they're causing chaos, just to see what happens. Their strength isn't physical. It's in manipulation, illusions, and clever thinking. Sometimes they even feel like they're in on a joke that no one else understands. The trickster matters because they disrupt order, forcing everyone else to adapt, and honestly, they make things a lot more interesting. The warlord. The warlord leads through force and dominance. Their power comes from strength, loyalty of followers, and the ability to conquer. Unlike the tyrant who controls systems, the warlord controls through presence and fear on the battlefield. They often believe that power belongs to the strong, and they live by that rule completely. There's usually a raw, almost primal energy to them. It matters because this archetype shows the oldest form of power, survival and conquest, and how it still echoes in modern storytelling. The scientist gone wrong. The scientist gone wrong starts with curiosity, but without limits. They push boundaries, ignore consequences, and cross ethical lines in the name of progress. At first, their goals might even sound reasonable. But step by step, they lose sight of responsibility. What makes them different is that their downfall is often self-created. It's not about evil intentions from the start, it's about obsession taking over. This type matters because it reflects real fears about how far knowledge should go without accountability. The crime boss operates at the top of an organized system. They don't just commit crimes, they run them like a business. Structure, loyalty, and influence define their world. What sets them apart is their ability to stay distant while everything flows through them. They often value control, reputation, and order within their own rules. And strangely enough, some even have their own sense of honor. It matters because this archetype shows how crime can mirror legitimate systems, just with very different goals. The Fanatic. The Fanatic is driven by belief, and that belief is absolute. They don't see themselves as villains at all. In their mind, everything they do is justified, necessary, even righteous. That's what makes them dangerous. You can't easily change their perspective because it's rooted deep in identity. Whether it's ideology, religion, or a personal mission, they are willing to sacrifice anything for it. And if you've ever argued with someone who just would not budge, you know how exhausting that can be. This type matters because it explores how conviction, without balance, can lead to extreme outcomes.